Quick question. Real quick question before I go into the store. Should Terrence Crawford take a pay cut for his next fight? There's all this talks about him fighting Manny Pacquiao. And I said that was BS. That was Bob Arum just throwing rocks and, treating fans like rocks and trying to throw us in any direction. But I told you that it's not happening, And it turns out, yep, that's the case. It's not happening. They said, oh, because there's no money for it and the investors won't pay, which is weird because somehow the, quote, investors are willing to pay for Manny to fight Mikey. Somehow the investors are willing to pay to watch for Errol Spence to fight Danny. The investors somehow are willing to pay for Fury versus Deontay Wilder, which is heavy dough. But somehow they can't pay for it. So I told you I was BS, wasn't happening, and that ended up being true. And they started talking about Ugas, and I told y'all again, it's not happening. And it has nothing to do with me thinking Terrence Crawford is scared of him or anything like that. It's just the fact that because it's a fight where it would be a fight that Terrence Crawford would win, but Terrence Crawford wouldn't look as good as he's looked. He'd have problems in that fight, and he would show flaws in that fight. And Bob Arum doesn't want him showing any flaws whatsoever. Like we always talk about, oh, well, look what this person did to Errol Spence, and look what this other person, Sean Porter, did to Errol Spence. Well, Sean Porter is a whole lot different level of competition than what Terrence Crawford has faced. So because they don't want him looking bad in any way, I knew that fight wasn't going to happen at all. So the question becomes, so who's he going to fight next? And is he going to have to take a pay cut? Because that's what Bob Arum was talking about. Bob Arum was talking about all this taking a pay cut stuff. He's going to need to take a pay cut and understand what's going on in this particular situations. And Terrence Crawford is like, F you. You know what I'm saying? That he ain't taking no pay cuts. He said he'll sit out the whole year. He said, I'll sit out the whole year, but I ain't taking no pay cuts. You're going to have to pay me. And Bob Arum said, well, he doesn't want to fight. There's other fighters that fight. Basically kind of insinuating that he would just shelf him. So the question is, could he do that? If he was at HBO and it was an old type of setup, yes, he absolutely could do that. But the way that things are set up now, I don't think so. And the reason for that is that he has a boss now. His boss is ESPN. And ESPN wants to see numbers. They want to see viewerships. So he can't just be like, oh, I'm going to shelf Terrence Crawford. No, because ESPN is going to be, when's Terrence Crawford fighting? You know what I'm saying? Especially with the low numbers Allstad's been getting for all these other fights. Terrence Crawford is the one guy that brings in the highest numbers on a consistent basis. It's him. It's he. He brings in the highest gates, and he brings in the highest, and the higher viewership numbers. So they're going to be asking him, like, what's going on? You can only take such a massive dip over here. Like, you're already taking heavy dips because of what's going on, and just the fact that the fights that you've been putting on are not fights that anybody wants to see. Very low-tier, unimpressive fights. You're not putting this guy in, Terrence Crawford in against anybody. Even for his next fight, you have Shakur Stevenson, which you could put him up against Burchelt, which would be a big fight. For a belt, it would be a huge fight for the station. But they're not going to do that. And Lomachenko versus Teofimo, they're talking about pay-per-view, which I think is a horrible idea. But ESPN's going to want to see those numbers. So they're not going to let you just put Terrence Crawford on the shelf. They're going to say, hell no. No, we need him to fight because we need to get these numbers. And he brings in those numbers. So I think it's a smart thing for him to just, sit back, lay back, and wait for that call. I think he's smart in saying so and not taking any shorts. Because Bob Arum will try to make you take a short, but if you stand fast, in this particular situation, you can pretty much get your way. You can pretty much get your way. So that's what I see that's going to be happening in this particular situation. They're going to say, but ESPN's going to say, yo, we need to get this done. And I say Bob Arum's going to say, you know, he ain't got no choice but to pay him. Because he's in a very, very, very tough situation this year. And also what's weird is I thought ESPN was the one that was paying Terrence Crawford. I thought supposedly he had a deal that was directly from ESPN. So why would it matter? That's what Bomac was saying. Bomac was saying that this was a deal that he signed, that was a deal that was directly from ESPN. It's almost like somebody would get like a fight contract or something like that from like a organization like a UFC or something of that nature. That's what they had said. That's what he said anyway. You know, and he said it was also set up in a way where he doesn't even, if he gets injured or if he don't fight for whatever reason, I guess even a situation like this, that he still gets paid. That's what they said. So I don't know how much, you know, that's actually true though. You know, a couple of things that he said when it pertains to Terrence Crawford seems to have not been true. But, you know, if that's the case though, regardless, I still see it as a situation where they need him to fight. So at the end of the day, they're going to kind of have to do whatever they need to do to appease him. So if that means them having to pay him that bread, I think they're going to pay him that bread. They're going to pay him that money because they need those events and they need those bouts. Not to mention, I'm sure ESPN is paying Bob Arum pretty nice for them Terrence Crawford events. If Terrence Crawford is making $3.2, $3.4 million per fight, trust me, Bob Arum is making more than that for those fights. He's getting a nice little chunky, you know, nice chunky check for those fights. So if Terrence Crawford doesn't fight, believe it or not, Bob Arum misses a couple of M's also by that happening. I'm sure he misses a couple of M's. And he's going to want that bread. So if he has to come out of his pocket a little bit, he'll do it so he can get, I'd rather make $3 million or $4 million, you know, if somehow there's a cut because of whatever's going on, because it's not going to be an audience or whatever. If I have to take a little bit out of my money, I'd rather take $2 million out of my pocket and give it to Terrence Crawford and come out with 3 M's than come out with nothing. And also have to explain to ESPN why the viewerships are so low for this year, for the bouts that we've had. You got to have some kind of shining star in this pile of trash that's called Top Rank Boxing for this year. So, I think he's smart in standing too. And I think he should continue to do that. And I think in the end, he'll get what he wants. So, we'll see though. Next couple of months are going to be crazy for sports in general. It might get ugly on these streets, but we'll see. But for now, like, subscribe, share. I'm out.